Welcome to another movie review, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Bikeriders, coming out in 2024. The movie follows a group of young individuals who start a motorcycle club called the Vandals, and it's mostly centered around a love triangle between Johnny, Benny, and Kathy. Johnny, played by Tom Hardy, is the leader of the club. Benny, played by Austin Butler, is kind of his right-hand man, and Kathy, played by Judy Comer, Benny's love interest in the story. So the movie opens up with Benny sitting in a bar, and a couple of guys come in who I guess they saw his motorcycle out front, and they're all upset, I guess, because he's like a motorcyclist, I guess, and the movie's kind of showing the kind of prejudice towards people who wear like leather jackets or into like motorcycles. So they get mad that he's there, and they want to take off his motorcycle jacket, I guess. So they're like, oh, you need to take off your motorcycle jacket. They're trying to get him to take it off, and he refuses to take it off, saying, you're going to have to kill me to get this jacket off. So they grab him and throw him out of the bar, and they get into a little tussle outside. And Benny ends up getting out his little switchblade knife from his boot and tries to stab the one guy. The other guy gets mad, so he picks up a shovel and is about to hit him right in the head when it cuts to Kathy narrating the film.
I've had nothing but trouble since I met Benny. I've seen more jails, I've been to more courts, and met more lawyers. I mean, it can't be love. It must just be stupidity.
The film also follows this kid who, they show his journey from this kid who sees the motorcycle club, the Vandals, and he decides he wants to start a motorcycle club. So I guess this is kind of like the B story to the movie. He sees the Vandals one day with his friends, and he's kind of like, oh, these guys are cool. So he decides to start a motorcycle club with his friend. And they kind of show his journey of being a rebel, and they show, like, you know, his whole home life, or like his father's abusive to him and his mom, and you know, he gets in a whole like fight with his parents, and the dad's like constantly beating the mom, and then he steps in and tries to like basically try to kill the dad, and then he ends up running off. They decide that they want to try to join the Vandals, but when they go to meet Johnny to try to join up, he's like, oh, you're just a kid, even though he's like 20. So technically he is an adult, but he still kind of looks like a kid. Johnny decides to kind of humor him, so they go outside, and Johnny's trying to test him to see if he's loyal. So he says he'll accept him, but only him. He decides to go, but then Johnny's like, what, you're not gonna bring your friends with you? What kind of man are you?
No. What kind of piece of shit are you? They leave your friends behind, ain't they?
So then he storms off, and he and his friends leave. And later on in the movie, he decides that he wants to challenge Johnny for leadership, and they end up going to some kind of like parking lot somewhere. And usually, like, when they do these challenges, usually Johnny will be like, fists or knives?
Fists? Or knives?
So the kid chooses knives, but when they get to the parking lot, when Johnny walks up to the kid just pulls out like a mini pistol and shoots him right in the chest, killing him. And it's funny because like they show his face like he's like surprised, which I don't know why you'd be surprised. This kid's a real smart ass. And it's kind of interesting to watch it, the progression of this kid's story. As they show at the end, he like takes over the Vandals, and it all kind of like goes on from there. It's just interesting to see that because it also shows what was going on at the time when a lot of these teenagers were being rebellious and stuff, and like they saw this as rebellion, and like they show like these older guys, like they're just doing it just because like they're into motorcycles, and you know these younger guys, like they start turning it into an actual gang, and you know trying to be more rebellious, turning it into like this completely different thing than it was than when it started. Basically bringing this whole group from originally just being a group of guys who were into motorcycles and guys who would just like to hang out and talk about motorcycles until this full-on dangerous outlaw motorcycle club. You see the progression from just a group of guys hanging out, they like going to like tracks and stuff, riding their motorcycles and dirt bikes together, having fun, and then you know, deciding that they want to start an actual official motorcycle club, them starting to become a motorcycle gang, but not like entirely. and they still aren't like a full-on fledged motorcycle club with Johnny as the leader. But then towards the end of the movie, when Johnny is killed off by this new kid, then it fully turns into a outlaw motorcycle gang going around dealing drugs, buying guns, executing people and offing them, and doing prostitution and all types of stuff and illegal things that typical motorcycle gangs do. And at the end, a lot of the older guys that were in the club originally, they end up leaving because they don't like the direction that the motorcycle club is going now that it's a motorcycle gang. So Benny, he decides just to lay it all down, and he goes and opens a garage where he's like fixing people's cars and motorcycles and stuff. And I guess Kathy basically got what she wanted at the end. And at the end, Funny Sonny, who's played by Norman Reedus, I guess he leaves the club too, and he ends up going up to the movie theater, and he sits out there revving his motorcycle to advertise for the movie Easy Rider. I thought that was pretty funny at the end there. But yeah, a lot of the other guys, they either stayed or they left, and they kind of started their own lives, because it showed like at the end nothing was really the same after Johnny died, and the whole club just like completely changed.
Once Johnny got killed, that was the end of the golden age of motorcycles.
This is also kind of showing the progression of time with like how culture changes, and they kind of show that with Johnny, where he is kind of distraught about how the club has been changing, and like all these new like hippie guys doing drugs are in the club, and he doesn't like the way this club is starting to change. Like it really shows how it really changed from the beginning of the club, where like it was just a bunch of guys hanging out, riding motorcycles, talking about motorcycles, to this new full-fledged motorcycle gang. And they show like the reporter guy is like reporting on all this and writing it down in his book. And at the end, like they show Benny, he's like completely like just giving it all up because he doesn't feel like he can do it anymore, because Johnny was really his like friend in this, and he was really the reason why he was doing this and why he was being in the motorcycle club. He just couldn't do it anymore. So finally, I guess Kathy is probably happy that he's like not doing it anymore. But the show, he was a little depressed at the end there because he can't be like riding his motorcycle anymore. And it's funny, there's a scene at the beginning where Benny's riding his motorcycle and he decides just to go straight through all the fucking red lights, and it took like a bunch of cops to be able to actually stop him and arrest him, and they ended up having to bail him out because of it. It's a neat contrast of that from the beginning to like the end, where like he's not doing that anymore now, and he's gotta kind of give it all up now because the whole club's like completely gone, and it's completely changed into this like new thing that they don't recognize. It has a lot of really cool twists and turns. You do not know what's going to happen next in the whole movie. And by the time it gets to the end, after this kid kills Johnny and he takes over the club, you're just like, oh, what's going to happen next? And it just shows them riding off, and it's kind of, the movie kind of ends open-endedly, I guess, because it doesn't really like wrap stuff up really. It just shows them like, they're just gonna live life outside of the motorcycle club. Yeah, like it just shows the progression of this motorcycle club to like becoming a motorcycle gang. And that's pretty much it with the movie. And I guess my final thoughts on this is like, it was a great movie. I had a lot of fun with this movie. Definitely give this like a 5-star rating. Definitely recommend this movie. Probably watch this movie like 100 times. And this is probably like the best movie I've seen all year. And it's kind of refreshing to see them do like this classic style of a movie when like, they have all these other movies coming out with all these woke crap and like woke agenda, pushing different agendas down your throat. And with this movie, like, it's completely different. It doesn't really have any agenda. It's just, a classic 1950s style movie kind of bringing it back to like the Marlon Brando movies with the Wild One, with them just like, you know, riding motorcycles and terrorizing towns. And they even show, like at the beginning, Johnny's watching the Wild One, so it kind of shows a little bit of influence from that. But yeah, overall, this was a great movie. Highly recommend The Bikeriders. It's definitely a 5-star movie, and that's probably it for today's video, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe, hit notification bell so you're notified whenever I post.
How many stoplights did you win?
They said 7, but it felt like more.